I was in shock. It wasn't even a tackle. So
Right.
I was totally in shock. I think you could see in my reaction.
You make a great Erling Haaland.
No, I'm gonna play Gianni.
Yeah.
I'll shave my head bald
Okay. I see
and
it.
be super corrupt.
I love it.
Most people did not think much about this story at first. A red card usually leads to a simple outcome. The player serves a suspension and misses the next match. That is how the process normally works, and it rarely becomes a topic for betting or debate. But this situation followed a very different path, and the timeline quickly started raising questions.
But yeah, I just had to accept the decision and, just try and be there for my team. But, as I said, I was definitely in shock.
And you knew that it wasn't justified. You felt it wasn't justified.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, when something's not intentional, it should never be a red card. So it was just an unfortunate situation, and I think it put a lot more pressure on us than we needed.
On July 2, an online betting market appeared, asking one very specific question. Would Fowler and Balogun play against Belgium? On its own, that sounds like a normal betting option. The unusual part was when it appeared. That same day, Balogun had been shown a straight red card against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Under the rules, a straight red card brings an automatic one-match suspension, meaning he was expected to miss the Belgium game.
Should we surprise the FIFA? If you know what I mean? FIFA. What a sham. What a sham. It's sad.
Where does this go from here, though, Gal? Well, because this is as low as it gets in respects of, like, we're talking about the integrity and the transparency. This is as low as it gets. What happens if this has to be stopped? Something has to happen here. Balogun shouldn't be able to play.
Even so, a market was opened, inviting people to bet on whether he would somehow return in time. Then, just 3 days later, on July 5, FIFA's disciplinary committee announced that his suspension had been put on hold, making him eligible to face Belgium. That is where the story became much harder to ignore. During this World Cup, 15 players received red cards. Balogun was the only one linked to a betting market about a possible return, and he was also the only player whose automatic suspension was set aside.
And once the president got involved and made the call, and then it was reversed, were you thinking, yay, this is good, or were you thinking, I don't know if this is such a good thing for the team or for myself at this particular time? Because then that turned into a whole nother layer of controversy.
My initial reaction was, I was happy to be back in the team.
Yeah.
But when I kind of started to reflect, I knew it was going to cause a lot of controversy. And I could almost see within my teammates a bit of nerves.
As the tournament moved forward, the questions were no longer coming, only from fans online or people following betting markets. The discussion reached a much higher level. What had started as scattered concerns was now being examined by organizations whose job is to protect the integrity of international sports. That shift changed the entire conversation, because official investigators were now asking for answers instead of simply watching from the sidelines. One of those concerns is now included in an official report that has been placed before an international sports integrity body. That organization has formally contacted FIFA and requested a written explanation. It is not an isolated issue either. It is one of 7 separate notices that were raised during the tournament. For months, FIFA maintained that there was no betting scandal connected to this World Cup. Now, those claims are being examined through formal reports, and the numbers behind the investigation are much larger than many people expected.
He reportedly wants FIFA President Gianni Infantino to become the next UN Secretary General. So can he? Infantino's stint in the top job has been marred by controversies, including human rights violations during the Qatar World Cup, cozying up to authoritarian leaders, creating the FIFA Peace Prize, and recently the furore over a red card that was revoked.
Before going any further, one point needs to stay clear. Nobody has proven that a single World Cup match was fixed, not one. That distinction matters throughout this story. The concerns are not coming from a random person online or someone making guesses with a spreadsheet. They come from the Group of Copenhagen, an independent international network created to detect and prevent the manipulation of sports competitions. The group operates under the Council of Europe's Macmillan Convention, a multilateral treaty focused on strengthening international cooperation against match manipulation.
All this has made him rather unpopular. The head of Spain's Football Association and former FIFA president, Sepp Blatter, has this week called for his resignation.
These are the organisations that governments rely on when suspicious betting activity appears. Throughout all 104 matches of the World Cup, they carried out a large-scale integrity monitoring operation. According to the Council of Europe's summary of their findings, 7 separate notices were issued over possible match manipulation. The amount of betting activity and data they reviewed during that process is difficult to fully grasp.
This is for North Korea 2026.
Excuse me?
Thank you very much.
Sorry, this is starting. We're starting a press conference.
Where is my security? Come on. Come on. Come on. For the 2026 World Cup. Come on. It makes sense for everyone. Here we go, Seth. That's thank you. Here's Seth. It's all there. As discussed.
The deeper investigators looked, the bigger the picture became. This was no longer just about a handful of unusual betting markets or isolated incidents. The overall betting volume surrounding the tournament reached an extraordinary level, creating an environment where even small irregularities attracted close attention from integrity experts. According to the Group of Copenhagen, an estimated $240 billion was wagered across the tournament. That figure is enormous. It is roughly double the estimated betting volume from the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, showing just how quickly the global sports betting market has grown over 4 years. Because of that scale, integrity monitors increased their focus on 15 matches, especially during the final round of the group stage, when teams often face unusual tactical situations and shifting incentives. They also conducted detailed reviews of 12 major incidents to assess whether any raised integrity concerns. So what ended up being flagged? 3 of the 7 reported notices have become public, and each one drew significant attention. The first involves the red card shown to South Africa's Themba Zwane in the 84th minute of the tournament's opening match against Mexico. Many people remembered that game for its chaotic finish, with 3 red cards being handed out in the very first match of the World Cup. At the time, most viewers saw it as an intense and physical opening contest. It has since been included as one of the incidents referenced in an integrity report. The second case received even more attention. Prediction platform Polymarket reportedly handled about $4.8 million in wagers on the outcome of Spain's group stage match against Cape Verde, specifically on the market predicting that Spain would fail to win. The bets were not centered on Cape Verde pulling off a victory, but simply on Spain not earning 3 points. The match eventually ended in a 0-0 draw. As more details emerged, another pattern began to stand out. The incidents drawing attention were not always about the final result of a match. In several cases, the focus was on individual moments that, by themselves, did not decide who won or lost. That reflects how modern sports betting has evolved, and why integrity monitors pay attention to events that might have seemed insignificant in the past. Spain went on to become world champions and conceded just 1 goal throughout the entire tournament. Even so, they were held to a scoreless draw by Cape Verde during the group stage. It was one of the tournament's biggest surprises, and quickly became a favorite story among fans. A result like that can happen naturally in football, and there is no proof that anything improper occurred. At the same time, integrity monitors noted that nearly $5 million had reportedly been wagered on Spain failing to win that match, making it one of the betting markets that attracted additional attention. The third reported notice involved a lengthy VAR review during Spain's 4-0 victory over Saudi Arabia. A goal scored by Ferran Torres was eventually ruled out after a review that lasted around 3.5 minutes. The decision did not affect the final outcome, as Spain still won comfortably. However, in today's betting markets, people can place wagers on far more than just the final score. Bets can involve the total number of goals, yellow or red cards, and many other individual moments during a match. Because of that, a goal being removed after several minutes can affect certain betting markets even if the winning team remains the same. That changing landscape was highlighted by Alain Berset, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, in a public letter released on the day of the World Cup final. He wrote, "Betting has moved away from the result of a match and onto moments a single player can produce without changing the score." His point was straightforward. Influencing an entire match result would typically require many people working together. Individual moments, however, can have their own impact on certain betting markets, which is why integrity systems monitor them closely. The concern extends beyond the final score. Modern betting markets allow wagers on countless moments within a match, including whether there will be an early yellow card, the number of corners, or other routine events that usually attract little attention from viewers. These moments often pass without much discussion, yet they can influence specific betting markets in significant ways. Alain Berset, Secretary General of the Council of Europe, summarized that concern in just 6 words. It is an open door to fraud. His point was not that any particular World Cup match had been proven to be manipulated. No such conclusion has been reached. Instead, he was highlighting how the structure of modern betting creates new risks that integrity organizations believe deserve much closer attention. This tournament also marked a major turning point for another reason. For the first time, the Group of Copenhagen reported that it had to continuously monitor prediction markets throughout the competition. That included platforms such as Polymarket and Kalshi, with Kalshi being an official FIFA partner. According to the group's report, tracking activity across these newer platforms presented challenges unlike anything they had dealt with before. Their report stated, "These markets raise unprecedented issues. They let people bet on an enormous range of events, often anonymously, using payment methods that are difficult to trace. The combination of different national regulations, varying legal frameworks, and the global nature of these platforms made oversight especially complex." Monitoring prediction markets on this scale during an international football tournament had never been attempted before. According to one financial analyst who follows the gaming industry, activity on these platforms during the World Cup exceeded nearly every forecast that had been made before the tournament began. The timing made the situation even more complicated. Prediction markets were expanding at a remarkable pace, operating in an area that many experts viewed as still developing from a regulatory standpoint. At the same time, these platforms were becoming more visible in major sporting events, creating fresh questions about how rapidly changing betting products should be monitored during international competitions. That is where FIFA's position drew increased attention. Earlier in the week, FIFA's Integrity Task Force released its assessment, stating that it had found no suspicious betting activity or indications of match manipulation connected to any match played during the tournament. The message was straightforward. Based on its findings, there was no evidence pointing to suspicious activity across the competition. Then, just one day later, a different picture emerged. The Group of Copenhagen, which is also a member of FIFA's Integrity Task Force, published information showing that its monitoring process had generated 7 separate integrity notices during the same tournament. Those notices were not presented as proof that matches had been manipulated, but they did identify incidents considered significant enough to warrant closer examination. The contrast between the two public statements quickly became a point of discussion. Both organizations were involved in monitoring the same World Cup, and both were part of the same broader integrity framework. Yet their public communications emphasized different conclusions only 24 hours apart. That difference did not establish wrongdoing, but it did raise questions about how the findings were being interpreted and communicated to the public. As more details came into public view, another issue began attracting attention. The discussion was no longer limited to suspicious betting patterns or integrity monitoring. It also shifted toward the relationship between football's governing bodies and the rapidly growing prediction market industry, with some observers questioning whether those connections could create the appearance of a conflict of interest. In April, FIFA announced the prediction market company, ADI Contradictory, as an official World Cup partner. The company had reportedly been founded only months before the tournament, and the partnership marked the first time prediction market branding became part of the World Cup environment in this way. That decision led some critics to question whether the organization responsible for overseeing the integrity of the competition should also have commercial partnerships connected to betting-related products. Alain Berset's public letter addressed that broader concern, arguing that this World Cup expanded the opportunities for betting on highly specific events within matches. He also included a remark that many readers connected to the Balogun case, writing, "When the rules bend under pressure, every result is open to doubt." That comment gained additional attention because of the timeline surrounding Balogun's suspension. FIFA publicly announced the decision, but did not release a detailed explanation of the disciplinary reasoning behind it. Separately, 72 members of the European Parliament wrote to European football associations requesting an investigation into Infantino's involvement, citing concerns about political neutrality. Around the same period, a betting market relating to whether Balogun would be available for the Belgium match had already been opened before FIFA announced its final decision. Looking at the full timeline, it is understandable why some people believe these events could affect public confidence. A series of unusual decisions, betting activity, and official reports appearing close together naturally invites scrutiny. Even so, it is important to separate unanswered questions from established facts, because those are not the same thing. No one has proven that any World Cup match was manipulated. That remains the central fact throughout this story. If confidence in an institution is going to be judged fairly, then the evidence has to be judged fairly as well. There are concerns worth examining, but there is also an important explanation from the other side that deserves equal attention. The Group of Copenhagen does not treat every notice as evidence of wrongdoing. Instead, it uses a 4-level alert system to classify events. Green represents normal activity, yellow indicates a slightly increased level of attention, orange signals a higher level of concern, and red is reserved for the most serious situations. All 7 notices issued during this tournament were classified as yellow, the second lowest level on that scale. A yellow notice is simply a prompt for investigators to take a closer look. It can be triggered by unusual movements in betting odds, reports circulating on social media, information received from a source, or other patterns that appear out of the ordinary. By itself, it is not a conclusion that manipulation occurred. Gambling expert Christian Kalb, who has previously worked with the Group of Copenhagen, has also explained why unusual betting activity can have completely legitimate causes. As he put it, odd-looking behavior can come from ordinary market mechanics. There are many explanations that are not manipulations. He offered a practical example. Imagine a smaller bookmaker facing heavy betting on a clear favorite. If that favorite wins, the bookmaker could face substantial payouts. To reduce that financial risk, the bookmaker might place bets on the opposite outcome through another market as a form of insurance. Activity like that can appear unusual in betting data while still being entirely legitimate. That is one reason experts urge caution before jumping to conclusions. A sudden surge of money on an unexpected outcome does not automatically point to wrongdoing. In some cases, it may simply reflect how betting markets operate behind the scenes. For example, if millions of dollars appear on a market such as Spain failing to beat Cape Verde, that activity could represent bookmakers or traders balancing their financial exposure rather than anyone attempting to influence the match itself. Christian Kalb also emphasized the importance of scale. With an estimated $240 billion wagered across the tournament and enormous sums moving through individual matches, unusual betting patterns are almost inevitable. In a market that large, statistical outliers are expected to appear from time to time. On their own, those anomalies are not evidence that a competition has been manipulated. That is why it is important to be precise. None of this proves that the World Cup was fixed, and there is no public evidence establishing that conclusion. Anyone presenting these events as definitive proof goes beyond what the available facts support. At the same time, the discussion does not end there, because the broader issue is about confidence in the competition. The challenge for FIFA is that public trust is shaped not only by proven misconduct, but also by unanswered questions. During this tournament, several incidents generated debate. They included the lengthy VAR review that overturned a goal, the disallowed Egyptian goal against Argentina that prompted formal complaints, the appointment of an all-Argentine officiating crew for France's quarterfinal, and the differing disciplinary outcomes involving Folarin Balogun and England's Jarell Quansah after similar-looking challenges. Added to that were the statistics surrounding the tournament's red cards, with 15 players sent off, but only one suspension reportedly being put on hold. It is important to draw a clear line here. There is no public evidence linking any referee, VAR official, or match official at this World Cup to betting activity or match manipulation, and there is no basis for making that accusation. The real issue is perception. Once concerns about betting integrity become part of the public conversation, many controversial decisions are viewed through a different lens. Moments that might previously have been seen as ordinary refereeing debates can suddenly attract much greater scrutiny, with fans revisiting old decisions and asking new questions. That shift in public perception can become a challenge for any sporting organization, even when no wrongdoing has been established. The lasting impact of a story like this is not necessarily a guilty verdict or a proven case of match manipulation. Instead, it can be the effect it has on public confidence. Once doubts take hold, every controversial decision, every close call, and every unusual incident is often revisited through a different perspective. Even when no wrongdoing is established, questions can linger long after the tournament ends. That makes FIFA's position especially difficult. Critics have argued that accepting sponsorship from a company connected to prediction markets creates an appearance of conflicting interests, particularly when the organization also reassures the public that betting integrity concerns are under control. Whether that perception is fair or not, it has become part of the broader discussion, especially after the Group of Copenhagen publicly reported 7 integrity notices shortly after FIFA stated it had found no suspicious betting activity during the competition. It is also worth noting that the Council of Europe has not publicly claimed that the tournament was manipulated. Instead, Alain Berset's proposal focused on strengthening future safeguards. His recommendation called for an ongoing dialogue with FIFA to develop a more comprehensive integrity framework before the 2030 World Cup, which is scheduled to be hosted by Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. The idea reflects earlier international efforts that led to stronger agreements on issues such as stadium safety and anti-doping measures. At the same time, FIFA President Gianni Infantino continues to receive broad support from more than 200 member associations ahead of the next presidential election. That level of backing suggests there is significant institutional support for the current leadership despite the ongoing debate. In the end, one point remains unchanged. There is no public evidence proving that a single match at this World Cup was fixed. That distinction is essential. What has changed is the conversation surrounding the tournament. FIFA repeatedly stated that concerns about refereeing influence and betting integrity were unfounded and that its monitoring systems had found no suspicious activity. Shortly afterward, an independent integrity network operating under the Council of Europe's anti-match fixing framework disclosed 7 integrity notices, requested a written explanation regarding the Balogun disciplinary decision, and highlighted that the only red card incident associated with a public betting market was also the only one whose automatic suspension was reportedly set aside. Those developments, regardless of how they are ultimately interpreted, ensured that the debate continued well beyond the final whistle. The biggest challenge for FIFA is not that anyone has proven the tournament was manipulated. No public evidence has established that. The challenge is that, after everything that unfolded throughout the summer, a series of unusual events, unanswered questions, and conflicting public statements have left many people wanting clearer explanations. In sports, trust is difficult to build and easy to lose. Once that trust starts to fade, every controversial decision is viewed with greater skepticism, whether that skepticism is justified or not. That is why this story continues to matter. It is not only about one disciplinary decision, one betting market, or one integrity report. It is about whether the systems designed to protect the world's biggest football tournament can maintain public confidence when difficult questions arise. Those questions deserve careful examination, and so do the answers that eventually follow. Now I want to hear what you think. After everything you've seen in this video, do you believe these events can be explained by coincidence, ordinary market activity, and the enormous amount of money flowing through modern betting markets? Or do you think there are still important questions that FIFA should answer publicly? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those discussions where different perspectives really matter. As more information becomes available, especially regarding FIFA's response to the request for an explanation about the Balogun decision, I'll be covering every major update and breaking down what it actually means, separating confirmed facts from speculation so you don't have to sort through the noise yourself. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more detailed football investigations, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Matchio, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown. There are plenty more stories like this that deserve a closer look, and we'll be covering them here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.